Hi, welcome to Baseline. This is part of the IEP On Demand series. I am Amy Shelley and I will be your facilitator for this session. As with all trainings that are offered by the Mississippi Department of Education, we begin with the mission and vision. Pause your video and read over the vision and mission now. Along with the vision and mission, we begin our trainings with the State Board of Education goals. Take a moment now to read over the 6 goals. Let's go ahead and dive right into our baseline. Here on the screen on this slide, we have the baseline portion of an IEP form that's for our students that are ages 3 to 5. Here we have a focus on goals that are academic or pre-academic, as well as those developmental goals that our students should be attaining. This is what the IEP form looks like. For our students that are ages 6 to 20, this is what their IEP form looks like. Notice that we are focusing on the academic areas of reading and math because these are our foundational skills. These are the 2 areas that go across the curriculum for our students. We also have areas of focus where we are looking at their communication, their social, their emotional, their behavior. So keep in mind as you're writing goals for your students that we want to focus on academics, which are the reading and the math, but then we can also look outside of that as well. So with the baseline, there's certain information that we must have written in the baseline. We also have to keep in mind that our baseline is directly related to and directly aligned to the annual goal that we're writing. So the 4 pieces of information or the 4 components that we have to have are first the behavior. And the behavior in the baseline is what the student can do currently. What can they do now? Secondly is the condition, and that's what circumstances. Do we want the behavior to happen when the student's reading a grade level passage? Do we want the behavior to be during transitions in the classroom or in the hallway? Do we want it to happen in small group? So think about what you want the student to do and where it's going to happen and what's going to be going on. Next, we have the criteria, and the criteria is how we're going to measure. Do we want the student to perform a skill at 70%? Do we want a student to perform the skill 3 out of 5 times, or are they performing? It's not do we want them to, but are they performing it? How well are they performing it, and how are we measuring that? And then lastly is our data source. Are we getting our information from a teacher? Are we getting it from a teacher-made test, a teacher observation? Are we getting it from a curriculum-based measure? Are we getting it from a larger assessment? So think specifically about what we're measuring and what's the best way to measure that and use that as your data source. So here's an example of a baseline, and notice that the color coding on this baseline matches the color coding that was on the previous slide. But here you have according to classroom assessment data. So there's our data source. When presented with a grade level reading passage, there's our condition. Kirby is able to answer 10 comprehension questions about the passage, that's the behavior, with 40% accuracy. There's your criteria. So notice that we're looking at classroom assessment data, Kirby's reading, answering questions, and we can measure that. So keep in mind that our baseline is what our student can do currently, and it's something that we're probably already keeping data on. So just a few reminders. First off, baseline data can be collected using either informal or formal assessments. It describes the current performance of a skill or a strategy in measurable terms. As we're looking at baseline and as we are determining goals, we have to look at those critical areas of need. So as we're determining those critical areas of need and what we're going to address with measurable annual goals, We then have to figure out what's the baseline, what can our student do now? And that's going to take information from parents, from teachers, from the student, from those general ed teachers that work with that student. So we can collect the data from several different places and people. And then lastly, as we're looking at baseline, we also have to keep in mind that after we have written the goal, we've determined baseline, we're also going to have to progress monitor. So it's good to keep in mind how you're going to progress monitor as you're writing those annual goals. And as you are determining baseline, think of tools that you can use that can also be used throughout the year to do the progress monitoring portion. Thank you so much for taking part in the baseline portion of the IEP On Demand series. There are additional examples and resources back where you found this instructional video, so please check those out. Also, if you have questions, let me know. For more information on IEPs or to request additional trainings, email Amy Shelley at ashelley@mdek12.org.